setting a proper motivation which has three parts. Refuge field, visualize Buddha Shakyamuni, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and all the enlightened beings in front of you. And how you visualize them? They are like your very affectionate parents, and you come home demoralized from your school, bullied by elder children, and your parents are waiting there with full love, affection, attention, so forth. Next, Bodhicitta field. Visualize your two grandparents on the two sides, and all the dear sentient beings, all the family members, and all dear sentient beings around you, living on the other side. And here you are the mother, and all others are like your children. And imagine that all others, they come home demoralized from the school, and you are there to give full love, affection, attention, so forth, to the extent that each one of them feels themselves as so special in your eyes. And the purpose of this class is to learn how the ultimate source of happiness is within each one of us. It's just a matter of the external factors, like when the gold is mixed with the soil, you don't see the gold in the gold ore, you don't see the gold. Only the experts can see the gold there. Only by separating the gold from the defilements, from the soil, only then you see the gold glowing. Likewise, by eradicating, by cleansing our mental defilements, then the ultimate source of happiness, like the gold within us, will start to glow. So for that matter, we need to identify what the defilements are, mental defilements are. Once you identify them, then resort to the ways and means to eradicate those defilements. And knowing that this defilement is of two kinds, the very gross mental defilements, such as all the negative actions that we engage in, negative thought processes that we engage in, these constitute the gross mental defilements, also referred to as the afflictive obscurations, and the presence of which obscures us from achieving total freedom from suffering. Knowing that the gross mental defilements are of three kinds: good harmonic karmas, which constitute the 10 known virtuous actions, 3 physical, 4 verbal, and 3 mental, and afflictions, which are the driving forces of the contaminant karmas, and number 3, the active seeds of the contaminant karmas and afflictions. And all these 3 somehow are rooted to the self-grasping ignorance. And particularly, the purpose of studying this text, the 400 verses by Acharya Aryadeva, is to eliminate, first to identify the self-grasping ignorance, and then eliminate this, so that by cutting the root of the poisonous tree, however huge the tree is, however millions of poisonous leaves there are growing there, all will dry automatically as the root is cut. So likewise, by eradicating self-grasping ignorance, by introducing the wisdom of emptiness, the offshoots of the self-grasping ignorance in the form of the afflictions and contaminant karmas will all come to an end on their own. Then on the other hand, we have the self-centered attitude, or the cognitive obscuration, and the cognitive obscuration are the subtle stains of mind. So the remedy is the same, which is the wisdom of emptiness, but the driving force should be more forceful. On top of the renunciation as the driving force, we should add to it the bodhicitta. So with this in mind, we can expect to cleanse our mind of the mental defilements, and then let this ultimate source of happiness within us become manifest and become predominantly presiding over us, and that we never experience any miseries anymore. And this is what we can share with your parents, with the family members, with all human sentient beings. With that in mind, imagining that everyone is joining you and you are leading this, let's turn to page 7. Okay, that's page 2.
Which one?
Page 2. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. Independent origination, there is no ceasing, no arising, no annihilation, no permanence, no coming, no going, no separateness and no sameness. I prostrate to the consummate Buddha, the supreme among all teachers, the one who taught this peace, which is free of elaborations. I prostrate to the mothers of the Buddhas and of the hearers and Bodhisattvas, who through the knowledge of all these hearers seeking pacification and complete peace, who through the knowledge of past causes was having migrated to achieve the aims of the world, and through the possession of omniscience, the subduer set forth the varieties having all aspects. The one who had transformed into the reliable guide, motivated by altruism to benefit sentient beings, the teacher, Sugata, and the protector, to you I make prostrations. The one who has eliminated the web of conceptualizations, and is endowed with the divine bodies of the vast and profound, eternally shines forth the forever noble right race. To you, the Buddha, I make prostrations. Page 7. From the bottom up. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye jodo zoge chonam la chanjo bardo dani gyapsoje age jinso gebe chonam ge chola benjir sangye do baraisho Sangye jodo zoge chonam la chanjo bardo dani gyapsoje age jinso gebe chonam ge chola benjir sangye do baraisho Sangye joda soge chonamda chanju bardo dane gyapsoji Dage jinso gebe chonamge doga penjire sangye rubarayisho. Okay, the next. This time the meaning of the mantra which we are going to recite. The meaning is quite simple. All phenomena, simple yet very profound. All phenomena arise from causes. So here, meaning all phenomena, particularly the phenomena of the miseries that we go through, they don't arise randomly, they arise by dependence on the respective causes. If you don't know about the miseries, rather than just crying over the miseries, we wisely look for the causes as to what are the causes responsible for giving rise to these miseries, the pains, anxiety, and so forth, and then think of eliminating. First of all, we have to identify the causes. So it says the causes are taught by the Tathagata. What the causes are, the causes of the miseries. They are taught by the Tathagata. Tathagata is the Buddha. And the causes, as we mentioned earlier, the other causes, somehow they're connected with the, say, contaminated actions, physical, verbal, and mental actions. And the cause, of course, the external factor is also there. If somebody is nasty towards you, the other person is also responsible. But then, more important than the other person, the greater the cause is the internal factors, such as the afflictions, contaminated karmas, and so forth. And now the next point is how to bring an end to these causes. the cessation of the causes as well is taught by the great seer. So identifying the final cause of miseries as a self-grasping ignorance, then automatically we look for which means to eradicate the self-grasping ignorance. So to eradicate that, we need to introduce the counterforce. And the counterforce, as we're going to learn here, is the wisdom of emptiness. So this is what we need to resort to when we appreciate the teachings of the Buddha. We have to be able to appreciate the teachings of the Buddha in this form, by seeing that finally it is wisdom of emptiness, by waking up from the sleep of ignorance. Say, in the sleep, you might have been going through nightmares, and then there could be ways and means to stop the nightmare temporarily while you are sleeping, while you are in dream, but the very stable, reliable, and the best way by which to stop the nightmare is by waking up. So it is for this reason that the Buddha is oftentimes referred. One of the epithets of the Buddha is the fully awakened one. So we also try to say emulate the incredibly the compassionate teacher Buddha Shakyamuni in this path to wake up, to learn from him how to wake up from the sleep of ignorance. Okay, with this mind, let's recite the mantra. First, let's say the meaning of the mantra, and then recite the mantra. All phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata. The cessation of causes as well is taught by the great seer. Om ye dharma hetu prabhava hetum desham tathagato yavatat desham chayo nirodha evam vati mahashramanaye swaha. Om ye dharma hetu prabhavam hetum desham tathagato yavatat nirodham evam vati mahashramanaye swaha. Om ye dharma hetu prabhavam hetum desham tathagato yavatat desham chayo nirodha vati mahashramanaye swaha. All phenomena arise from the causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata. The cessation of causes as well is taught by the great seer. Okay, Heart Sutra Mantra, which is on page 17, Heart Sutra Mantra. This mantra is very powerful and very important. And the recitation mantra, why not we include our two parents and all our very dear and near family members and all dear sentient beings with us, although they are not with us physically, but whether they are in this world or they already left the world, we can include all of them. We can include in our visualization and let them also have the exposure and reap the benefit of reciting this mantra, that the mantra of undertaking the journey, mental journey, a journey from the state of the misery to the state of the ultimate happiness in the form of gati, paragati, parasamgati, bodhiswa. And you are leading this, and everyone, all sentient beings, they are joining us, and all those who have already traversed this journey completely, and of now having become fully enlightened beings like Buddha Shakyamuni, His Holiness, and so forth, we just visualize all of them like the very affectionate mother and father watching us when we are doing something very good. Okay, and you are leading this. Deyata Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Bodhisvaha Om Gati Gati Parasamgati Bodhisvatyata Om Gati Gati Aragati Parasamgati Bodhisvatyata Om Gati Gati Aragati Parasamgati Bodhisvatyata Om Gati Gati Aragati Arasamgati Bodhisvatyata Om Gati Gati Aragati Parasamgati Bodhisvaha. Page 19, 8 verse of my training. Remember that within the mind there are two mental states. One, self-confidence, and the other, the self-referential ego. So these are two mental states. introduction on a meditation. So, but those of us here who already have some exposure to meditation, you can do whatever meditation you're doing. For those who are more new to meditation, what I would suggest is initially don't go for complicated meditations. Always do something very simple. So what we're doing here is a breathing meditation. For the breathing meditation, again, keep in mind that there are so many kinds of breathing meditations. So many kinds, but what we're going to do is here is very simple, at the same time very, very helpful in our life. Okay, to calm down the mind and to build our concentration, so many benefits. So for that matter, there are 4 points to keep in mind. One is body posture, number 2 is the focal point, number 3 is identifying the errors of meditation, number 4 is applying the remedies to overcome the errors. 4 points to keep in mind. The body posture wise, say if possible, sit cross-legged, if possible. If not, it is not mandatory. Cross-legged meaning, say your left foot should be on your right leg and the right foot on your left leg. Like the position, the cross-legged position of the Buddha. Padmasana. Okay, this, and particularly this would be very helpful if you are to sit for meditation for at least like an hour regularly, or say daily, like an hour or more. And this cross-leg would be extremely beneficial to maintain the freshness and the rigor of your mind. Number 2 is the backbone upright. That is so important, backbone upright. And only if you have backache problem, then you exempt it. Otherwise, when you meditate, never lean against the support. Never lean against the support during the meditation. Never lean against the support. Keep your body upright. This has a tremendous benefit to maintain alertness of mind. Then your head tilted forward a little bit, and your eyes. Now this is very important. 2 things are very important. One is the backbone upright, and if you do have backache problem, then you can take the help of a support. Then your eyes should not be closed. They are, say, maybe there are some teachers who would give the instructions to keep the eyes closed, but what I would suggest is that if you have been doing this practice with eyes closed for like a little over 1 year, then I would suggest you either do with the eyes closed, or you can learn how to do with eyes open also. So that way you will learn both eyes closed as well as eyes open, and then the more options, better it is for you. But if you are not really exposed to any form of meditation thus far, better to learn with eyes open. Once you learn how to do the meditation with eyes open, then doing with eyes closed is very easy. And doing meditation with eyes closed and then shifting it to with eyes open is very difficult. And on top of that, there are some dangers to do the meditation with the eyes closed if you are not expert. For experts, there are some meditations on a very advanced level. There are some meditations where deliberately you try to make things so dark, and then your eyes close and everything is so dark. There's a very specific meditations, but that is when one is a little more trained in the meditation. For beginners like us, it is best to do the meditation with eyes open. Okay. The tip of the tongue should touch the upper palate. Tip of the tongue should touch the upper palate in order to avoid excessive accumulation of saliva in the mouth. And teeth and the lips, keep them in their natural course. And breathe naturally. Don't force your breath. Don't control your breath. Okay, breathe naturally. And your right hand on your left hand. Right hand on your left hand. There and hand gestures. Again, there are so many meditation. There are so many versions. Then right hand on your left hand, and the tips of the 2 thumbs standing, forming a triangle. The tips of the 2 thumbs joining, forming a triangle. Place the 2 hands on your laps in restful state. Okay, breathe naturally. And while the body is upright, make sure that your body is flexible. Body is flexible. It should not be rigid, right? And particularly for beginners, there's a tendency that when we do the meditation, unconsciously, you tend to slowly tense your body. Tense your body, you are unaware of that. And then when you try to keep an eye on your body, you see that it's already very tense. So if this happens, it is not really good for your body. So once in a while, keep track. Keep an eye on your own body to see whether your body is flexible or tense. If it is tense, relax it, instantly relax it. And then once it becomes a habit, then you don't have to worry about it at all. It becomes very naturally to maintain your body very flexible. Okay. So this is body posture. Number 2 is focal point. What you're going to meditate on. Meditation, there are 2 kinds. One, meditation. The meaning is a system of training the mind. Into virtuous objects. System of training the mind versus the trained mind and habituated mind into virtuous objects. The next question is how do you do that? There are 2 methods. There are two ways. One is analytical meditation, and the other one is single-pointed meditation. Single-pointed meditation, where your mind, where you don't actively engage your mind with other objects. Simply maintain single-pointedness pertaining to one particular object. So this is single-pointed meditation. What we're going to do today, this is more single-pointed meditation. Then alongside the analytical meditation, this is so important. Both are important. These 2 are like the 2 wings of the same bird. If the right wing is missing, however strong the left wing is, the bird cannot fly. Likewise, the left wing very strong, right wing is missing, you cannot fly. So we need both for us to fly to the shore, to cross the shore of samsara. Okay. So this is there are 2 meditations. Now what we're going to do here is the single-pointed meditation. Just visualize a tiny dot, white dot or bindu, 1 mm or 2 mm in diameter between your nose and upper lip. There are so many kinds. It's not that what we're doing here, one is the correct and what other teachers teach, these are wrong. This is not true. All are correct, provided we take care of point number 3 and point number 4. Okay, point number 2, the focal point is just visualize a tiny dot, white dot, which is 1 mm or 2 mm in diameter between nose and upper lip. Here, okay. Your eyes are not looking at it, but your mind should be able to see. For example, somebody is scratching you from behind, your eyes cannot see that, but you could feel it. So there is a mental consciousness feeling it. So this is exactly what we should be doing here. And then your eyes half open and 45 degrees cast down. 45 degrees cast down, your eyes half open, 45 degrees cast down. So here when we visualize this tiny dot between nose and upper lip, multitasking. Multitasking meaning, while you visualize your mind there on this tiny dot, you should be counting your breath. Breath in, breath out, cycle 1. Breath in, breath out, cycle 2. This is what we're going to do for 5. Initially, we're going to do for, let's say, 2 minutes. 2 minutes, which is, 1.5 minutes, which is about like 21 cycles. 21 cycles. After 21 cycles, then we will break for a few seconds. Then we will do another 5 minutes. 5 minutes meditation. Okay, this is what we're going to do. This is the focal point. Number 3, identify the errors of meditation. Errors of meditation, there are 2. Mental scattering and mental laxity. Mental scattering is your mind meant to be focused on the dot between nose and the upper lip and counting breath, but it might get scattered here and there, oh, I have this laundry to do, I have this shopping to be done, I have to go to meet this person, I have this, that is mental scattering. This is one error of the meditation. Number two is mental excitement. And then sometimes it may not be such deliberate, the engagement, say, for no reason, some very strange appearances can come to your mind, like there's people talking, or the houses and these things, lights and so forth can come. This is a form, a milder form of mental scattering. The number two is mental laxity, where mind becomes lax, mind becomes heavy, torpor, mind becomes lethargic and inserviceable. So this is the second error, where mind is below the average of the activity. That is mental laxity. So when these two things, should any of these two things happen, we are bound to encounter with, we are bound to go through one of these two problems, because we are not, because we are very, very samsaric beings. But this can be changed. This can be improved. We can remove these two over time by resorting to point number four. Point number four is applying remedies. Remedies, there are two: introspection and mindfulness. Introspection, what is introspection, what is mindfulness? Say if you have a pet dog and you lost a pet dog, what do? First you go in search of the pet dog. You go in search of the pet dog. So that is like your mind, the meditating mind, is like the pet dog. Now it is not sitting on the focal point, but it gets distracted or it becomes sleepy. So that is you lost your pet dog-like mind. So then you have to go in search of that. Go in search of this mind, where your mind is. Is it still on the focal point, or is it distracted, or is it feeling lethargic? When you are inquiring that inquiry is known as the mental inquiry, is mental introspection. The next, once you find the dog, what do you do? Then you tie the dog with the rope and bring it home and tie it to the pillar at your home. So this rope is like the second remedy, which is mindfulness. So the moment you see your mind either distracted or in a relaxed state, then bring the mind back to the intended object with rope-like mindfulness. And bring the mind back to the intended object. This is known as the mindfulness. So you apply the mindfulness. This is what we're going to do for 21 cycles initially. Okay, ready? Now we are ready to go for 5 minutes. Be careful with point number 3 and point number 4. Point number 3 is identifying the errors of meditation. Errors, they are twofold. mental laxity and mental excitement, or mental scattering. Mental scattering, mental excitement, for the time we can use them as interchangeably. There's a slight variation, slight difference between the two. And number 4 is applied remedies. Remedies there too, introspection and mindfulness. Okay, with that in mind, 5 minutes. Start. Okay. Do you all have this book? 400 verses, 400 on the middle way. Or do you all have this book? Okay, if you have, we are, I think, on page 28. Page 28, stanza 233. Okay. Page 28, chapter 10, stanza 233, 233. The chapter that we're doing here is quite a technical chapter, and this is what we have been doing since last year. Yes, since last year. Yeah. Okay, so this is a continuation, and those of us here who are really first time to this class, keep in mind that this is, of course, quite technical. And a quick overview of what we are doing here is to identify how our problems arise. One, to identify how our problems arise. After knowing how our problems arise and what are the sequential, the factors, the causal factors responsible for the problems, then we come to see that, as we earlier described, the problems that we have, they are the direct cause is a contaminated actions, physical, verbal, and mental contaminations. And these actions, they're driven by the set of emotions, known as the destructive emotions, known as afflictions. For example, attachment, anger, jealousy, spite, and so forth. And they in turn are given rise to by the self-grasping ignorance. So this sequence we have to know. We have to know, and not only knowing the sequence, in a life, see how that is true. How that is true. That finally it is my own, say the self-grasping ignorance, which is responsible for giving rise to all the other emotions. For example, like in a dream, say you are actually in your bedroom, you sleep, and then you have a dream, and in the dream you go to a garden, and then say in a garden you start to have a conflict with a person, and then you start to have the fight, and because of this fight, both are very unhappy. So just imagine that. So this unhappiness that you had in your dream was because of the dream fight. The dream fight was because of your clash in your ideas with other person. You feel attached to your view, your thought, and the other person disagrees with you, and then there's an aversion between two of you. This aversion resulted in the fight. This aversion is because of your clinging to your view, and the other person clinging to his or her own view. And then even this clinging to the view is because you didn't realize that you were dreaming. Had it been the case that you realized that you were dreaming, you will not at all fight with the person. You will take that as, this is just nothing. There's no substance there. It's just my dream. Whereas failing to see that as a dream, you take it so real. And then you start to become so emotional. So all the emotions will take over. And then you end up in the physical karma of fighting. And then the miseries ensue. Okay, so for this we see that finally this problem, the uneasiness, unhappiness within your dream was the immediate cause of that because of the fight with the other person. That's the karma. So this fight was because of your disagreement, the hatred, the anger towards the other person. That is your emotional state. This anger is also because of your attachment, clinging to your own view, to your own point of view, and to the self, and the other person clinging to himself or herself. That is the negative emotion. So that negative emotion is because of failing to see that you are dreaming. Right?
So we see there's a causal relationship as to how the pain that you had in a dream, how it comes into being. So finally, it is rooted to what? To our failure, failure to see that what is happening there is all dream. Okay. So now, if you want to get rid of this problem altogether, what should we do? We should wake up. We should not fight. How not to fight? But not being carried away by the negative emotions of anger, attachment, so forth. How not to be carried away? How not be swayed by these negative emotions? By realizing that what is happening is dream. And how to realize that what is happening is dream? By waking up. So, wake up, then feeling of this I. This will stop. This I. Actually, you are not that person who is in a wakeful state. You are dreaming. You were just lying down. You are not actively there. But you dreamt of that. You see that is so real. So we have to wake up to realize that. What happened in the dream, that was all just my dream coming from my mind, rather from the object. Okay. Now with this, in the dream, when you start to have the quarrel with the other person, what happened was that you, I, and this person, so that person becomes your object, and you become the subject. And you see the object as so real, you see the subject also so real. In actuality, both are dreams. Now, Chapter 10 is primarily to tell us the same, see the other person as real, see yourself as real. And then these two things, like the two hands coming together, then the anger, emotions, the actual fighting, everything happened. So, of the two hands, either you remove the right hand, or you remove the left hand, or you remove both. So, Chapter 10 teaches us how to pull down one of the hands. Of the two, seeing the objects as so real, seeing the subject as so real. So what is being taught here is to see the subject, to dismantle, seeing the subject as real, seeing the self as real. Okay, so for the self, the more we solidify the self, we tend to cling to it more strongly. Right? We tend to cling to it more strongly. So for example, if there are, say, 3 houses, I don't know how the Bollywood stars, how Bollywood filmmakers they do, maybe they want to say, can give suggestions. Say the houses, the Hollywood, they would say, construct whole city and town, right, made of temporary structures, and we seem so real, right? So real. So a temporary, say, a town, and there's actual concrete, solid town there. Nowadays we make in India we may start calling it smart town, smart city, right? Okay, say a proper city, and another one made of the temporary structures, but very beautiful. From outside, it's so real. Okay, let me see. Say, to make it more realistic, say one house, which is a real house, and the other temporary structure house with the just temporary for a few days movie shooting. But from outside, the two look so alike. Both equally as so beautiful, alike, and with both furnished so well. So if you own both the two places, both houses, which if burned, you'll feel the loss more? Which one? The proper one. Why? Why one you call as proper? Why you call the other one as the not proper? Why? What makes you to qualify one as proper, one as not proper? Why? Value is more, yeah. Value is more. You solidify the value. You solidify the value, and so one is for the value, and from, say, when the earthquake is there, mild earthquake, or say water, that's better. Say rain and cold, which can protect you better, the solid one, right? So from this, all reasons are there in support of you solidifying this, the first house, not much as the second. So if somebody destroys the second one, you won't really have a sense of feeling of loss. But with the first one, for sure you will sue the person with a court case, right? Okay. So the more we solidify, more emotional upsurge happens. More we solidify the object, more we solidify the self, more the sense of, say, the emotions, more the emotions become intense in the mind. Attachment, anger, jealous, all these emotions. Okay, so with this in mind, by the way, which do we like to do? To solidify ourselves or to see the self as insignificant? Which is better for us? Solidify, yes. Okay, so this is our natural tendency to solidify, right? To solidify the self. Okay, but have we ever tried? And we are so expert in this. We are so expert in solidifying the self. We are so expert. If not from the past, many past times, for sure, since day one we were born, and not necessarily day one, but when we are like age 1, age 2, we already are so expert in solidifying the self, right? Okay, say, have you ever seen small children when put together, age 2, age 3, put them together, right? When something goes wrong, they're so expert in hitting each other, in making the other hassle other child. They're so expert. You don't have to teach. They're so expert. So who are these people? Us. Don't look for the small kids out there. We were the ones. We did it, right? We did that. Did you ever do that before? When you was young? Okay. In fact, I'm very fortunate that somebody complimented a lot. Somebody, right? We were young in school. can Google search, you'll get it. Along with that, all the virtual information you'll get, all the mistaken information you'll get, right? So likewise, when you speak about the people, when you speak about the texts and so forth, there are texts, traditions, which are not really healthy for us. And there are some which are very healthy also, right? So we should have the intelligence to distinguish what is healthy for you, what is unhealthy for you. This is so important. So the chapter 10 here, it is more like how to dissolidify the self in opposition to how the self is solidified by the various treatises, various texts. We're getting it? And this should not be seen as a debate or say hostile argumentation between the different traditions. This is not how we should view. In fact, what is being said here is reflection of the tendency that we human beings have. So this is to dissolidify the self, the way it is solidified in the opposite way, how it is solidified by our own ignorance. Right? It should not be seen as the say hostile debate with other traditions. Okay, with that in mind, say the self, pre-Buddha's time, the self was conceived as permanent, unitary, and independent. In simple terms, the self is conceived as a permanent phenomenon. Well, anyway, we all, I think most of us, we have the tendency to always go for permanent phenomena, right? Okay, right? Say, if you buy shoes, the shoes should be something which should last for 1,000 years, right? Or there's not really good quality you are looking for, a very good quality, which can last you for, let's say, 100 years or 200 years. And a house, same. Or the house, so we build as well, like we will live at the next 5,000 years, right? So we're looking for these things. So what I'm saying is that we have the tendency to want things as permanent. Okay, so this sense of self, the self to be permanent, is one way of solidifying the self. So to desolidify that, one way is to see the self as impermanent. Then another way of desolidifying the self is to see the self like a dream. Right? Okay, so what is being studied mostly is to desolidify the self as a permanent self, to desolidify a permanent sense of self. Okay, 2, 3, 3. I think we are done with this. Now 2, 3, 4. A life force which has pleasure and so forth appears as varied as pleasure and so forth. Thus, like pleasure, it is not suitable as something permanent. Okay, so this already requires the number of the background information. So what's said here is that there's a self which is permanent. This is according to some of the pre-Buddha, say the philosophers, contemporary or pre-Buddha's time. Okay, and today also there are these philosophers there. There's a self which is permanent, and then this self which is permanent is the one which experiences pleasure and pain. And then he's saying that what is the self? What is the self? Then through all these discussions, they finally point to the self as the life force. Life force, we speak about life, living being, living things. Living has the connotation of life. So there's a life force which has pleasure and so forth, meaning that the life force which is accompanied by the intelligence. This is the position of one of the philosophical traditions, which is accompanied by intelligence and mind. So, and therefore, when these things are put together, the life force accompanied by mind and intelligence, so this will make the self experience pleasure, pain, and so forth. So then Aryadeva is rejecting this by saying that a life force which has pleasure and so forth appears as varied as pleasure and so forth. Say life force, say if this glass is like the analogy for life force, and the water content, that is the particular experience of pleasure, particular experience of pain they're experiencing. If the water color is blue, then what will be the color of this glass? Blue glass. So you will say, please bring that blue glass. You're getting it? Whereas if there's another glass, same glass, if the content is red, then the color of the glass will be red. So we'll say, bring that red glass. In actuality, it's the same glass, but the glasses, they assume different colors depending on the different content matters. You're getting it? Likewise, say the life force. Likewise, the life force with this, okay, in your kitchen, there must be many containers, small containers. Do you have many small containers? Those of you who have kitchen, some of you might not have kitchen, you might be always outside. Some of you might have a kitchen. Okay, those of you who have small containers, what containers do you have? Tell me. Teja, the container for dal container, honey container, then sugar container. Okay, so we label the container on the basis of the content. You're getting it? Likewise, the life force can be classified on the basis of the. Okay, life force can be classified. Life force can be classified on the basis of the accompanying factor. Life force, when it accompanies with the mind and intelligence, life force accompanied by the mind and intelligence to experience pleasure. Life force accompanied by mind and intelligence to experience pain, right? So they become different. It's not just the same object. It becomes different object because of the different items, because of the different objects that they experience. A life force which has pleasure and so forth appears as varied as pleasure and so forth. What it experiences, they are varied, so the subject also becomes varied. You're getting it? Varied. Thus, like pleasure, it is not suitable as something permanent. Permanent means it should not be varied. Same first moment, second moment, third moment. If it's permanent, then it should not change at all. If it experiences pleasure, always it should experience pleasure all the time. If it experiences pain, it should experience pain all the time. Whereas if it changes its object, then it is no more permanent. It is impermanent. So, thus, like pleasure, it is not pleasure and pain. It changes. With us, we have experience. Sometimes we have happiness. Sometimes we have pain, neutral, happiness, pain. There's always shift. Just as the object shifts, object changes, the subject also should change. Subject which experiences object. And just like pleasure, it is not suitable as something permanent.
So the opponents are saying that life force and intelligence are two separate things, and they combine together.
Yes, only with the life, the self, the person. What is this person? Initially, they say the self is permanent phenomena. And then what exactly is the self? When you push like this, then they say that if the person is permanent, then he cannot experience anything. No. Yes, that's true. I agree. They cannot defend the position anymore. So then they add more. They say, actually, this person, there's a life force there. This life force decides whether the person is there, right? And this life force, we can accept it more easily. Life force, yes, there is a life force. So, and this life force per se does not really help. Life force must be accompanied with the intelligence, must be accompanied with the other mental factors, factors. So when these are intact, then the person can experience happiness, pain, neutral feeling, and so forth. Okay, this is just more like the stretch of the dialogues between the different traditions. As Aryadeva, he was pushing more and more with the debates, then other side was trying to defend the position with more additional points. 235. 235 is particularly the position of the Samkhya tradition. Samkhya, if consciousness is permanent, an agent is superfluous. If fire is permanent, fuel is unnecessary. So for the Samkhyas would say that the I, this I, and the consciousness, these two are identical. These are identical. And this, just as this permanent, this self, the self is permanent, this consciousness is also permanent. If consciousness is permanent, an agent is superfluous. So then the Aryadeva's debate, if the consciousness is permanent, then if it experiences pain, it will continuously experience the pain. Then they would say that, no, that's not true. Although consciousness is permanent, but when this consciousness is accompanied by another agent, like eye consciousness, like eyes, our eyes, then this consciousness will see the visual objects, not the sound objects, right? So if the eyes are replaced by the ears, then the same consciousness will hear the sound, not the visual objects, right? So there's the agent in the form of the eyes, the senses, as the agents, but the consciousness per se is the same, is permanent. When the agents change, then depending on that, then the different perceptions happen, different experiences happen, right? Well, if consciousness is permanent and agent is superfluous, so from these two, consciousness is the same, what changes? Agent, eye sense, nose sense, ear sense, and so forth. Agent changes, but what they say is that consciousness is permanent. So what is impermanent is superfluous, meaning impermanence. What is impermanent is the agent, the sense power, sense. So Aryadeva is saying, if fire is permanent, fuel is unnecessary. Right? If the fire is permanent, what's the need of the fuel? Right? The need of the fuel means it is dependent on the fuel. If the fuel is not there, the fire stops. Fire is impermanent. Whereas if the fire is permanent, then the fire will last on its own, without depending on any other factors. So the fuel is unnecessary. Likewise, if the consciousness is permanent and experiencing pleasure or pain, then it should not depend on the agent, eye sense, ear sense, and so forth. Okay, 236. A substantial entity, unlike an action, does not alter after it disintegrates. That is, it is improper to claim the person exists, but consciousness does not. Okay. So now, these philosophers at the time of in ancient times, these philosophers, they literally debate with each other. Because of this, there's a constant shift in the position. Shift in the position happens. So now what they're saying is a substantial entity. A substantial entity, for example, let me say, this flower, which has a substance, and imagine a blue flower which does not have a substance. Imagine a blue flower, in place of this, you can quickly change it to imaginary yellow flower, imaginary white flower, you can quickly change it, because the substance is not there. With here, this is a substance, unless I'm a magician, right? I cannot change it because there's a substance there. So what the opponents are saying is that the consciousness, the self is permanent, and the consciousness is permanent. And what it says is that consciousness, within that consciousness, there are two parts. One, consciousness in the form of potential. One, consciousness in the form of being conscious. Two, right? One in the form of potential, one in the form of the active state. Two. So this is, in fact, it is not that whatever is being described here these are the actual positions. They switch. They change the positions with the more debates coming from Aryadeva. right? So they switch. So what it says in a substantial entity. For example, let's say we as human beings, right? We can say, I can move this object here, I can move this object. So there's a movement. This movement is the action, right? So this action can stop the moment if I don't like to have this action, I'll stop this. Action stops, right? Action stops, but what is that thing what is that substance which is associated with this action? My hand. My hand does not stop. Although my hand movement stops, but my hand still exists, right? So likewise, if the consciousness is permanent and the consciousness experiencing the pleasure on the basis of the eye sense, the sense power, eye sense, sees a beautiful flower, then the consciousness experiences pleasure, and suddenly this flower droops, object droops, and then with the eye sense power, eye sense, it passes the information that it's a drooping flower, then the consciousness will feel the unhappiness. So experiencing happiness changes to experiencing unhappiness, right? So this act of experiencing happiness stops, and the consciousness should continue because there's a substance there. Now, what they are saying is that, say, the consciousness experience the pleasure also it is permanent, although it's permanent. With the agent, they change the agent, the consciousness can go into the potent state. Potent state meaning in the form of the potential, may not be the active consciousness, right? So now, Aryadeva is saying that a substantial entity, the consciousness, a substantial entity, unlike an action of this movement, action, it can stop. But the substance which is involved in the action, that does not stop. It should not stop. Does not alter until it disintegrates. Same this flower. What is moving? The flower is moving. The movement of the flower is there. The flower is there, plus movement of the flower is there. Now, I stop it, I move it, I keep it flower like this. The movement of the flower stops, but the flower continues. Then slowly, what happens? If the flower lasts for 10 days, on the 10th day, the flower starts drooping, and the flower will disappear into dust, right? So, it says, a substantial entity like the flower, unlike the action it can go very easily. The substantial entity like the flower does not alter until it disintegrates fully, right? Thus, it is improper to claim the person exists, but consciousness does not. They say that the person is permanent, consciousness and the person, these two are like synonymous, but the consciousness, one thing unique about the consciousness is that consciousness can take two forms. One is active conscious state, and the other one is potent state, right? So now Aryadeva is saying that how come that the person continues to exist, but the consciousness assumes potent state, active state. If there is potent state, active state changes like this, then it is impermanent. If that's the case, then you cannot say that the person is permanent and the consciousness is also permanent. You have to say the person is permanent and the consciousness is impermanent. You have to say this. Okay. 237. At times one sees potential consciousness, at others consciousness itself, meaning that now the person, okay, this is a little technical, bear with me, the person and the consciousness. So these two are seen as synonymous by the opponents. So what they say is that at times one sees potential consciousness, meaning potent consciousness. Consciousness in the form of potential. Potential, for example, say, unless you bring a beautiful flower in front of you, you will not have the pleasure of seeing a beautiful flower, right? So what happened to the consciousness experiencing the beautiful flower? It becomes inactive. That is known as the potential consciousness. One. Number two, at other times, consciousness itself. Consciousness becomes very potent, very active. When there's a beautiful flower in front of you, then the consciousness becomes very active to see it as a beautiful flower. Okay, so consciousness in two states. Because of being like a molten iron, the person undergoes change. So they say that now, if this is how the consciousness changes, consciousness, active state, and the potent state changes, and the consciousness and the person, you said that these two are synonymous. If these two are synonymous, and if you say that the consciousness changes like this, persons will also change. If the person changes, person cannot be permanent. The person undergoes change, meaning person has to undergo change. The person cannot be permanent. 238. Merely a small part with mind is conscious, but a person is as vast as space. Therefore, it would seem as though his nature is not to be conscious. Okay, so this is the position that the person is permanent. The person is permanent. It is okay. It is so vast. It is so vast, and at times they also describe it as existing. Okay, let me share with you this. How this still we are discussing the Samkhya tradition. Samkhya. According to Samkhya, how the enlightenment nirvana is achieved, how we are free from suffering. So Samkhya, according to Samkhya tradition, they say what actually exists, only two things. What actually exists, only two things. One is the creator of the universe, Prakriti, and the other one is this self which is permanent. The self exists and the Prakriti exists. Prakriti meaning the creator. So this creator did not create this self. This self is not created by this creator. Now what happens is that now we see that it's not only I, I see all these things. I see that I'm in Delhi, and Delhi now is a little humid, but not so bad temperature-wise, but it's a little humid. And in winters it becomes very cold, and because it is a little warm today, we have the AC here. This is also not me. This is not Prakriti. There are so many things. Millions, trillions of things are there. So how come that all things are there? Who created all these things? Right? We are unaware. We don't ask these questions. Who created all these things? Okay, so this philosophy, Samkhya philosophy, says that one day somehow you come in contact with the teacher. Which teacher? Samkhya teacher. And Samkhya teachers tells you that, okay, so all these pains that you're going through, these are just adventitious. They are not really your pains. You can avoid these pains so easily. How? Nobody wants pain. Everybody likes to listen how the pain can be got rid of. So the teacher explains that this pain can be eradicated. This pain can be eradicated very easily, right? First, what you do is that you meditate. Single pointed, you meditate. You do this single pointed meditation. With this meditation, you will gain a single pointed power, the power of your meditation. You will gain the power. With this power, your mind becomes very subtle. With this experience of a very subtle, powerful mind, you can acquire clairvoyance. Clairvoyance meaning the ability to see the subtle realities. Okay. So with this then, what happens is that with this special power of your mind, meditative power, then you will explore who is responsible for creating all these things. You will explore. Then you will discover the secret of the existence. You will come to discover that there is one agent known as Prakriti. Prakriti, who is actually creating all these things. First of all, it creates this hopeless body. You know why hopeless body? If you don't get the food on time, it feels the hunger, right? And if you stay in 40, say the 33 degree and above, then you will feel the hot heat, right? Heat. And if it's below 16, 17, you will feel the cold. Such a terrible body was created. And because of this, we have to go for the food. If you stay in Delhi, you have to go for AC, cooler, you have to go to buy these things. You become very busy with Amazon, right? Very busy. Okay. Then, so for the food, we have to go to the groceries. Here are and then for the groceries, we don't go there and give just a cart and they make any cart. No. You should have some money there. For the money, again, we have to work so hard, right? We are like a slave. And who made it? Because of somebody who made this body. Who made this body? That made me to work like a donkey, right? It's just for this body. It's just for this body. Who created this body? If I don't have this body, I'm freed from hunger. I'm freed from thirst, cold, heat. I'm freed. And I don't have to go to hospital. I don't have to pay all these hospital big bills. Right? Even the doctors, they may not be right. You just see how not all the doctors, I'm very sorry. Some doctors are so kind. But oftentimes, they will be reluctant to come to see you, right? Unless the doctor senses that you're going to pay. Just to go there, see hello, and you left, they will charge you 1,000 rupees. Just for the doctor to come and say hello, they will charge you 1,000 rupees, right? So why all these problems? Because of this body. Just because of this body. Just see how true that is. And we need the house. And along with the house, what is the property? Right? With the property, then you end up in the litigation course. Right? Court case. All the family court cases. Like 50, 60% of the court cases are all just the fights between the brothers, sisters. Terrible. Right? And these properties, they are meant to make our life easier. They might make our life more miserable. Because we just end up in going to the court all the time. And that's so much hostility towards your own brother, towards your own sister. And someone I met several years ago, he said that he had 700 court cases. Literally 700 court cases. I said, then how do you manage? He said that I send the lawyers only with the major things, then I come. Otherwise, I send my lawyers. And lawyers, they have to pay, right? And then what happened? And then I was more interested because this never happened to me. My parents were so kind. How my parents were kind? They did not leave anything because they knew that there's going to be a problem with the three siblings. They might have problems with amongst three siblings. They didn't leave anything. And those parents who are, not really kind, they leave so many things, and the parents, they end up fighting. The children, they end up fighting. Oh, it's terrible. So then I asked more, how come you have 700 litigations? He said that once his uncle sent some gundas to actually kill him. In his house, 3 or 4 people came to shoot him. And somebody actually pressed the trigger and the bullet went like this. And he had to go through surgery. He did not die. And I said, why? How come your uncle? Because of a fight between the uncle and his father. Over what? Over all these properties. Oh. And these properties for what? Because of what? It's all wealth. Wealth for what? Wealth to make our life easier. In what way it makes our life easier? In the first way, what does it mean by easy? Without which there's a problem. Which problem? Problem with the body. Right? Finally, it's the body. And who created this body? This Prakriti. Then, because of this Samadhi, going back to Samkhya, because of the Samadhi, you realize that's very true. All these problems, somehow, with 100%, but for us, 90% 9% of the problem somehow connected with the body, right? Body. And this body who created, this is Prakriti who created that. Because of the clairvoyance you acquired through the meditative experience, you come to discover the secret, unfold the secret, that this Prakriti is the one who created all these things. The moment you see that, Prakriti was likewise watching you, right? Watching you. And Prakriti coming to know that you have disclosed his or her secret of creating the universe, right? Prakriti feels ashamed because you have discovered his or her secret. Prakriti feels ashamed because he or she feels ashamed. What does he or she do? Pull back all his or her manifestations, whatever created, they were all pulled back by him, including your body. Now you don't have to worry about hunger, thirst, cold, heat, pollution, and what else? All this you don't have to worry. All these worries stop. What is left now? The self. Except for the self and the Prakriti, everything is withdrawn. But the Prakriti, what is left? Sickness, aging, death, everything withdrawn. Now you don't have to go through sickness, aging, death, nothing. They're all being removed. So you achieve the freedom from all the undesirable things. Freedom from the undesirable things is known as nirvana. Right? So this is the position of the Samkhyas, as to how we can free ourselves from samsara. Okay, with that in mind. Yes.
So in the Samkhya philosophy, the self is permanent, unitary.
Yes.
And Prakriti?
Okay. Prakriti is the creator. It's also permanent. It's the founder. There's a very beautiful description of Prakriti also.
So it's also permanent.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay, now 238. So this self, okay, tell me, say if everything else other than the self and the Prakriti, if everything else is just the manifestation of the Prakriti, then when the Prakriti dissolves, removes, withdraws all the manifestations, what happens to the space? Space disappears. Now what's left? Only the self is left, which means the self becomes, if you describe this universe as so expansive, you become the universe yourself. You become so expansive, right? You pervade in all places, because there is no place, right? So it's just you. Whatever you call universe, it's just you are left. Okay, so it says, merely a small part of 238, merely a small part with mind is conscious, but the person is as vast as space. The person, now everything's, pulled back. So what really is there is the person. All what we see as existent, these are just the illusory manifestation by the Prakriti. Now what they are saying is that this self, which is permanent, it has the consciousness, and this consciousness which can manifest in two forms. What forms? Active state and the potent state, right? Merely a small part with mind is conscious, meaning active state. This consciousness on a small part is active. But the person is as vast as space. The person and the consciousness, these two are seen as synonymous. Now there's a little contradiction happening here. The person is as vast as the space, and this consciousness, it has two aspects, one which is active state and the other one is potent state. But the person is vast as space. Therefore it would seem as though its nature is not to be conscious. Now, if the person is as vast as a space, and what is seen as synonymous with the person is the consciousness. And the consciousness, they say that it has two parts. One is conscious, active, and the other one is potent state. So of the two, say the active state is, because that there are two parts, active state cannot pervade whole. is only one part. You getting it? Same of the two, active stated part and the inactive state is also has a part in it. Now the self should be active or inactive. Self should be active or inactive in cognizing, in knowing things. So simply because there is an active part of the consciousness, so therefore the self is active. Self should equally be inactive because the self is what? Self is unitary. It does not have parts. So whatever this part, it should spread to all parts of the self. So the self should be equally self, as the Samkhya would say, as conscious. You should, by this logic from the debate from the Acharya Aryadeva, we can say that the self should equally be inactive and unconscious. Because the consciousness has two parts. Because of the conscious part, the Samkhyas are saying that the self is conscious. But the self does not have, self is unitary in nature. If it touches one area of the self, it should touch all parts of the self, whereas the self does not have the parts. So it's just one part. Now, because the consciousness has two parts, one which is unconscious, so unconscious part also touches meaning, it also is being possessed by the self. So the self should be unaware, unconscious of phenomena. Just as Samkhyas would say the self is conscious because of the conscious part of the consciousness. Okay. 238, merely a small part with mind is conscious, but the person is as vast as space. Therefore, it would seem as though its nature, the nature of this person, is not to be conscious because it has the non-conscious part in it. 239, if the self is in everyone, okay, now this self, they say that the self is so expansive. Okay, the self, they speak about the self is in two ways. One is the Jivatman, and that one is Paramatma, yeah, right? Jivatma and Paramatma. Okay, so the real self is this Paramatma, not the Jivatma, right? The real self. Okay, so what is real self? This real self is, as described here, so vast as this space. Then this self, there is no space where this self does not pervade. So myself and yourself these two become the same. Then I should, when you think that I'm a girl, I should also think that I'm a girl. If I think that I'm a boy, everyone should think that you are a boy, because our consciousness, our mind, the self of all of us should be one. So this is actually a big debate, because this is literally what is accepted even by many of the traditions today, that in reality there is only one, the cosmic consciousness, right? Okay. Okay, 239. If the self is in everyone, if the same self, the self, Brahmatman, if the self is in everyone, then why does another not think of this one as I? So this person B, my friend, is me. Why don't we think like this, if the self is one? It is unacceptable to say that it is obscured by itself. Then you may say that, oh no, because that person, you don't think that she is me or he is me, because he and she, the other, your friend stops you. Your friend thinks different. Your friend is actually obscuring you from thinking the friend as you, because your friend thinks differently. So it is like, because your friend is actually you, then it is like you obstructing yourself from seeing your real self. So this is contradictory. 240. there is no difference between the insane and those for whom the attributes are the creator but are never conscious. Okay, now what exactly is this, the Prakriti? Okay, this little technical, the one who created everything. The Prakriti. What they say is that there are three attributes. There are three attributes. Dul, Mun, Yingdo. So nowadays, actual advocates of this philosophy, I don't think exists. There can be scholars who can speak on these. For example, I speak on these now, but I don't believe in this. So it would be wonderful if there are people who actually believe in these things, and then we can have good conversation. Otherwise, same, it's just like scholars, professors, they speak about these things, they don't really believe in these things. There are so many scholars who teach Buddhism who don't believe in Buddhism. You know that? There are so many scholars. Yeah, they empathize with Buddhism. Yeah. So likewise, there are so many scholars who teach Christianity. And in the West, there are so many scholars who teach Hinduism, who do not believe in Hinduism. Likewise, Buddhism, they don't believe in Buddhism. They teach. They are scholars. Okay, scholars and practitioners who believe the devotees, they are different, right? Okay, so now it's very unlikely that the advocates or the people who really believe in this tradition, I don't really think they in the form of institution they exist. I don't think so. Okay. So now what is being said here, again with the Samkhya, there's no difference between the insane and those for whom the attributes are the creator but are never conscious. Okay, this creator is consisted of, is very funny, right? So we have to somehow learn more if we want to really go into this, right? So this creator, they say that it is consisted of, it has three attributes. Three attributes. In Tibetan, Dul, Mun, Yingdo. Dul is the particle, Mun is the darkness, and Yingdo is the courage. Dul, Mun, Yingdo. These three things. So this Prakriti has three attributes. Particles, darkness, and ignorance. No, the courage. Particles, darkness, and courage. Okay. So when these three attributes, they are in balance, then it is Prakriti. When these three are in balance, then it takes the form. It is actually Prakriti, right? The Prakriti. Okay. So there is no difference between the insane, on the one hand, insane person who does not have any conscious thoughts. One, those for whom referring to the Prakriti with the three attributes. What are the three attributes? Particles, darkness, and courage. Are the creator, whom the attributes are the creator. These attributes in balance as the creator of the whole universe. On the other hand, two, right? Two. And these two say the insane person is insane, is not conscious of what he or she is doing. Then the Prakriti is also like the insane person. Prakriti, he creates all these things, but he's not conscious of his own creation, because it's nothing but constituted of the three attributes. And the three attributes, they are all non-conscious. They don't have any conscious state. They are three attributes. So Prakriti becomes like a. So actually, Aryadeva is not saying that the Prakriti is unconscious state or non-conscious object. This is not what he is saying. He is pointing to the contradiction. When somebody accepts Prakriti as the creator of all phenomena of the universe, and at the same time it is consisted of three attributes which are all non-conscious.
One thing can I ask? What is the difference between subconscious and unconscious?
Okay. The difference between conscious
And subconscious.
No, unconscious